Sean, a report out today that some cabinet secretaries are bristling at what they see as the White House micromanaging staffing at the sub-cabinet level. To what degree does the White House think that it should impose its hiring approvals on members of the sub-cabinet? And is some of this at least partially driven by cabinet secretaries wanting to appoint people who might not necessarily be aligned with the president's thinking?
Well, I think when you come to, they're called political appointees for a reason. The idea is that people who come into this government should want to support and enact the president's agenda that he campaigned on with the American people. And I think one of the reasons that you see in recent polls is the president, people, even if they don't agree with the president, they give him high marks for following through on the promises that he's made to the American people and getting things done that he actually said, which is not always the case here in Washington. And I think that we want to make sure that the people who staff a Trump administration are committed to a Trump agenda. And that's, so cabinet secretaries and other administrators and directors have broad discretion. But I think at the end of the day, no matter what position you have, whether it's the lowest or the highest in the White House or in a department or agency, we should be making sure that people who are coming in as appointees of the president support the president's agenda. And I think that's one thing. This isn't about getting a job as a federal employee where you're subject to certain restrictions as to what you can and can't do as a benefit of being a federal employee. These are political appointees. And so I think that there is obviously we are going to ensure that people who are political appointees share the vision and agenda that the president campaigned on and is implementing.
And does the White House believe that it needs to have the final approval of
I don't think
people,
this is
or can you trust your cabinet secretary?
It's not a question of trust. It's a question of just making sure that we are all on the same page and committed to the same agenda that the president has set forth. This process is probably no different than we've seen in previous administrations. Cabinet secretaries come to the president with recommendations on who they want, and it depends on the position, obviously. But in certain cases, if they're going to fulfill a job that is a key area that the president had very specific goals to enact that he promised the American people, you want to make sure that the person that is fulfilling that job actually is committed to the agenda and the vision that the president set forth and promised the American people. And that's something that we're always going to be making sure is in alignment.
And is this approval process in some way slowing down the appointment of crucial staffers?
No, not at all. I don't think so. I think when you look across where we are and we track the number of folks that are in the pipeline, we're doing very, very well with getting all of these positions filled. And I think once in a while you might hear of one or two people. But overall, generally speaking, I mentioned during the transition period how many members of the beachhead teams that we had. And I think those members who were appointed through the beachhead process had 120 days. And they were there to allow basically a 4-month process for secretaries in the White House to make sure that people on a permanent basis could populate those positions, and that's what's happening. But make no mistake, we were ahead of the curve on the beachhead teams. We were very clear with the landing teams during the transition. This has been a very methodical process that is seen from top to bottom through, and I think we're doing a phenomenal job of staffing the government. Zeke.
Thanks, Sean. 2 questions for you. One, earlier in conversation with John about does the White House not have confidence in its cabinet secretaries if it's looking sort of over their shoulders into whom they're taking? Does the White House does the president not trust his cabinet secretaries and appointees and agency administrators to staff to find people who agree with the president's agenda?
No, not at all. I think there's a big difference. The president named these folks because they're unbelievably qualified individuals. Part of it, though, is that you're staffing major departments. I think we've got somewhere in the area of 5,000 positions to fill. And when you're filtering through a good number of people, I don't even think the secretaries, at some degree, depending on the department and have a full background on some of these individuals. And so as they get pumped through the pipeline, there are questions. And again, there are areas that are of key priority to the president that he campaigned on. And I think that when he wants to make sure that certain of those individuals who are going to be overseeing key priorities that he promised the American people have somebody who is not only qualified but agrees with and shares the president's vision to fix whatever problem that was or fulfill whatever vision that he articulated. But I think it would almost be malpractice not to do that, to allow people to fill a job, a political appointee job, who don't share the vision and agenda of the President of the United States would almost be ridiculous. I mean, it would be silly on its face to suggest this. I don't think there's any administration in past history that would literally willingly take on somebody who was adamantly opposed or spoke out specifically against what the president was seeking to do, and then have them fulfill a job to carry out that mission. It doesn't seem as though it makes any sense.